Okay, sir.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन, उम्मीद है आप सब लोग खैरियत से होंगे। आज हम अपना एक और लाइव सेशन लेकर आए हैं और आज जो हमारे साथ गेस्ट हैं, मैं उनका नाम नहीं बताऊंगा आपको, लेकिन शी इज़ अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग गेस्ट। क्योंकि अगर आपने ये देखना है कि आप अपने वाइट का माल ब्लैक कैसे करना है या ब्लैक का माल वाइट कैसे करना है, तो शी इज़ एक्चुअली द काइंड ऑफ पर्सन यू शुड बी डेफिनेटली टॉकिंग टू। सो प्लीज़ एवरीवन वेलकम Sakina Zubair. Hi Sakina, how are you?
Assalamu alaikum. I'm fine. How are you all?
I'm good, I'm good. And then we have the other two people as well. We have Shabahat and we have Aqsa here as well from the team. How are you guys?
Yeah, good, good. Assalamu alaikum to all the viewers. Assalamu alaikum to all the team and Sakina.
Assalamu alaikum.
वालेकुम सलाम। तो आज जैसा हम लोगों ने कहा कि भाई आज सकीना हमारे पास है, तो ज़रा हम थोड़ा सा चीज़ें सीख लें कि ब्लैक मनी कैसे वाइट करनी है और वाइट
Yeah,
मनी
good.
कैसे ब्लैक करनी है।
How are you guys?
Sahi. Shalin, thank you so much for the short and sweet definition putting on my name. I like it actually. Maybe next time I can just have that short and sweet introduction. How to turn black money into white.
Yeah.
You call my name. Adrian has
So,
levels.
you just be careful as well, because otherwise there will be a lot of big politicians start contacting you from Pakistan.
वो तो सब खैर हो मैं भाई वो एटीओ ना सुन रहा हो क्योंकि ये लाइव जा रहा है ना और रिकॉर्ड भी हो रहा है वो एटीओ के पास ना चल जाए ये
टेंशन नहीं
सब
ले। एटीओ वालों को उर्दू समझ नहीं आती, एटीओ वालों को उर्दू समझ नहीं आएगी। All right. So I think let's start. We have Sakina here. Sakina, please welcome aboard today. I think it's going to be a very exciting live for today. We actually, everyone, we are all live. So a disclaimer for all of you that you're all live. So please be careful when sharing something important because this is live. And I'm not responsible for any content which goes out intentionally or unintentionally. But I think let's start, Sakina. So please tell us a bit about yourself and how did the journey started and when did you came to Australia and things like that. So let's start with you.
Okay. I'll keep it very to the point because honestly, I've traveled so much. So if I start counting on how many countries I've happened to travel and actually live there, I think we may need the whole one day. Back in 2004, when I got married, I went to London on scholarship, did my accounting and finance from Westminster. So I lived there for 9 years.
Okay.
Didn't really like it much. I don't know, just didn't feel home. Perhaps being born in Kuwait and raised in Karachi, I was craving for a beautiful sun. So I thought, what would be the right destination? For a short period of time, I returned to Pakistan. During that time in 2011, I happened to work for Anglo Corporation. Directly under Asad Umar. I wasn't reporting to him, of course, as you can imagine, big gun. But it was a good journey. So when I was there, working there for 1 year, again, I won a scholarship from Anglo Corporation. So they had scholarship graduate programs and all. I just thought, there's no harm applying for it. And we had to do some aptitude tests. And then based on the scoring, they were going to finance the employees to study abroad. And the condition was that you return after 1 year of studies or 2 years of studies, and you work with Anglo Corporation for 5 years.
That's right.
So we had to sign a bond and all. So I sat for the test and I passed that, and I had another scholarship, and I came to Australia. When I came to Australia, and I was like, wow, I think that's my final destination. I just returned the scholarship money I had for 1 year from Anglo Corporation, and just stayed in Australia. So from 2012 till now, I suppose it's now nearly or even more than 9 years.
Wow.
So Australia is home. That's all I would like to say. Australia is home now.
That's good. So which city did you arrive in Australia first?
A very interesting question. I actually lived in every single state of Australia. And I guess that's the reason I've got clients from the whole Australia. I've got clients in Western Australia and Queensland, which actually keeps me on toes because my laptop doesn't get turned off even after 9:30 because Western Australia thinks that it's still 5:30 and Sakina should be able to do the meeting. So my first stop was in Queensland. Then I moved to Melbourne within 7 months. Didn't really like Queensland much because I couldn't find biryani.
Okay.
You know
It's
how
very
we
hard
are,
to
we
find
country
biryani.
people. Yeah, and I was like, if there's no biryani, I'm not going to stay in Queensland. So I went to Melbourne and I lived there for 2 years. Then I came to Sydney for work. Lived here for 18 months. Then I went to Perth for visa and work. So I worked for Minings and uh, a Sydney company. So they were doing like food and all these big export businesses. So I was working there for 2 years. Didn't really
Wow,
like
okay.
Perth, although the driving was very easy. I won't get to that point. Shabahat might be laughing deep down in his heart, so you can keep the secret. And so after 2 years, I went back to Melbourne. I thought maybe Melbourne is where I want to buy my first home. But little
Okay.
did I know that Sydney will have so much attraction that will pull me back from Melbourne, despite that I actually landed back from Perth to Melbourne, tried to adjust in Melbourne, but the memory I had from Melbourne and Sydney pulled me back all the way, even staying there for another 18 months and thought, nah, Sydney. So Sydney is like Karachi in Pakistan.
That's true.
That's where the home is.
Sydney is like Karachi and Melbourne is like Lahore.
Well, it's true. Well, that's true because you see, Melbourne is known for fashion and food. So is Lahore, right?
True.
And Karachi is known for education, economically. Like you name it, all the good things come from. No, I'm not trying to offend anyone from Lahore, but you would agree to that. And so same applies to Sydney. When it comes to economy, Sydney is on the top of the list. When it comes to a good job or opportunity or good business growth, you always look at Sydney because you've got a high population, a lot of opportunities. You will never exhaust the opportunity.
True.
Yeah.
So how did the business of Griffith Taxon came in play? So how did you get the idea? So I know you just mentioned you have been working here and there. Suddenly, how did the entrepreneurship what do you call it, entrepreneurship queen started taking place in your heart or something?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit genetic as well.
Okay.
I always say that money, knowledge, obviously, it does contribute into the business, but you got to be genuine entrepreneur. Like you have to be a real businessman. You can't just come with the money and a bit of a passion to make two times two. You got to be real about the business. So
True.
my father was a businessman. My grandfather were businessmen, and
Okay.
their
Wow.
father were businessmen. So I thought, I need to continue with that legacy. My brothers are businessmen, so I would say whether or not the idea came overnight, I had it in my blood from the day one. I'm breathing. I always have this in my mind that eventually I'm going to land the place that I would call mine. So I was just waiting for the right time. As I just mentioned, that for many other reasons, including my education visa and all this, I've traveled in different places. I was actually waiting to find the right place so I can land as a final full stop and make my home and make my business. The reason why I went to Melbourne, I thought that's where the opportunities are more to start my business and then start targeting the right level of clients. But I was proven wrong, though I started a little bit here and there while I was in Melbourne back in 2018 and 19. But even though I was running as a side gig when I landed Sydney, it just grew so rapidly within 1 year. As I turned my back and I was like, I didn't even know that my business is consuming that much of my time. And I started recruiting people up offshore and I started setting up my administration because the work is now gone beyond my own capacity to manage. And I started now even having my own team so I can dedicate a bit of work. So it's not a one-man show anymore within 4 years. Now we are a four-man show. So I've got three administrators. They help me with the bookkeeping and all the drafts and stuff. And I do the client-facing consultation ATO facing. So all the larger stakeholders in Australia, I deal directly myself.
That's good. Now, I think the question for you would be from Shabahat would be, who deals with your marketing?
No, actually, my my question is about that transition that you made from working to business. It's a huge task, and it's not easy. So, what were the feelings or the emotions when transitioning into full-time business? Were there moments of conflicting thoughts or not? Or if there were, how did you overcome them?
Yeah, well, before even I answer that question, I have to address one fact that we all are different and we all have different circumstances. So therefore, depending on our circumstances, our fears are different as well. I listened to every single interview, and I guess 9 out of 10 said that they came on PR, and then that's where they thought of their own business. That wasn't the case when I came here. In fact, in my case, I actually came when I had no money and I didn't even care about it because I was on scholarship. So as I changed my mind, obviously, that actually pushed me back on such a deep financial distress whereby I actually was under, credit card bills and all, and I had that financial distress which I had to pay off after I completed my studies. So my largest fear at the time, though I had that from the day one and I had it in my blood that I want to have my own business, my largest fear was that if I'm the sole bread and butter winner, and if I put my foot onto the door whereby I will have to call something my own, what if no one will consider me capable enough to work for them? And so that fear was there. So the way I transit, unlike many other people, I actually kept everything in parallel. Like I started working for other company while I was setting up my own gig. But then because the gig grew so quick, I think those fear was unnecessary. I didn't realize that it was just a matter of trusting myself. So during the transaction, if there was anything I was missing, was that trust element on myself. The moment I found that trust on myself, the business was just flying without even much of the marketing. But I guess again, I now need a very
I
So
think
strong
Shabat,
backbone to
Shabat,
hold
she
me.
actually, she showed you something and she said, you know what? I don't care. I don't need marketing. And that's the thing. No,
I,
no one needs
I,
and
marketing in SMBs.
no,
and that no, no,
I would
that's
say I would say marketing is still important because what I have realized, man, I have to be very honest. Like when I started, expanding my business, I realized that every single client that I had was through organic growth. As much as I appreciate the fact that organic growth obviously is more appreciative and it just makes you feel good that how satisfied your clients are, but at the same time, believing that you just should only rely on organic growth, you will never know what else you're missing. So you do need some strong marketing campaign to take your message out in the market.
I
Otherwise,
actually didn't want to talk about marketing so early in the interview, but here I'll add a point.
No, I'm
Um,
not talking about marketing. I'm
well,
just
but
saying we
even
don't need
organic
marketing.
growth, even organic growth, when you're getting referrals, it's always marketing. Even word of mouth is marketing. Even a referral is marketing. So if someone is coming to you with the business, it's because you communicated the fact that you run that business. And that is exactly marketing. Communicating your services or your products is marketing. So whether you do that on Facebook, you do that on a billboard, or you do that to a person one to one, you're always marketing and you're always doing marketing. You just can't run away from it.
Shabat,
yeah, no,
I have a question.
I couldn't agree more.
Like I have a question to Shabat, and my question is, see, there are two types of marketing. Either it's a positive marketing or it's a negative marketing. Now, when the name comes to me, rumors, what kind of marketing is that? Is
Mm.
that a negative one, and is that a positive one?
Depends on your experience with rumors.
All right. All right. So basically,
From the front.
we are getting sidetracked. So we have our guest over here is Sakina, and we don't want like Sakina. Just please, as entrepreneurs, we will start always pull legs of each other. So please don't mind. And if you want us to pull your legs
So
as well,
good.
let us know. We will do that. No problem.
No,
Right,
all
Sakina, I've
good.
got another question for you. There was a point in time I remember when I migrated to Australia in about 2016. Being an accountant was the hot stuff, right? You could get PR on 65 points. You come here, you study accounting. So everyone's coming, flocking in from other countries, studying accounting and becoming an accountant and getting a PR. So in these 5 years, I've noticed the trend in immigration change. Now, studying in accounting is not the easiest way to get to PR. But having said that, those 4, 5, or 10 years before today actually generated or created a flock of accountants in the market. Would you say that the market is saturated here in Sydney? Let's just talk about Sydney for accountants. Is it a difficult road to travel if you choose that as a business?
Well, firstly, I have to really mention that getting in immigration under the accounting category wasn't that easy even back then. Otherwise, I would have to fly all the way from Sydney to Perth because
Hmm.
I had to make up my application up on the threshold to 80. I had to get 5 points from the state or 10, I don't even remember. So I had to fly all the way. So it wasn't an easy journey even back then. But back to your question, is the market a lot more saturated than it was? Well, definitely. I mean, back then when if I was an entrepreneur back in 2016, I think that would have been a lot easier than when I started maybe after 2 years of 2016. It's just getting harder and harder. But even though the market is so stiff, I always tell even my own peers, and I'm like, never ever fear your competitors because your competitors are the best teacher and the right benchmark for you to see how much you want to lift your business. Because if there's no competition, you will never learn. You will never know where you need to improve. Yes, obviously, if the population is still 100 and you've got 10 accountants, then number of head divided by 10, you're going to have less business. But if you really not like anyone out of those 10, then you should never fear 100 divided by 10 because you're always going to get what you deserve to get.
And I
So
think definitely the one
never
thing
ever
is,
consider what the competition is. Always consider how better you can be in the market.
I personally believe, the main thing is not everyone also understands this part that every business actually requires an accountant at some stage or the initial stages as well. So, and especially in Sydney, the problem is just a lot of work already in the market, and we are still short of people over here. We are still short of, I have been in part of the different networks, and what I've always seen is the one person I've always seen is, no, two people actually I've seen very busy. Three actually, I don't count myself, but I see either an accountant or a bookkeeper. They're all very busy. They don't have talk. They don't have time to talk, and they're like, "Oh, can you do this?" And I'm really busy, and that's the only thing you'll hear from me. Especially when it comes to the ending of either May or June, it's hard to find an accountant.
Yeah, yeah, because that's when you do FBT, that's when you're doing financial review, it's a lot more than what you would expect in July to September. I mean, people think that July to September is the busiest time, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, indeed it is, only just for individual tax return, but your busiest time is actually from start of the March till last week of June. You're more on your toes if you've got more corporate clients.
True. So, Sakina,
Exactly.
Yeah.
what
Actually,
services do you
hang on a
cover?
sec. Hang on a second, Madhvi. Hang on a second, Madhvi. You actually broke my flow. My previous question was linked to another question. Um, so when I asked you whether the market is saturated or not, you said it's definitely saturated. That means there's a lot of competition out there, and there are a lot of accounting firms and a lot of accountants. That means that for you, and yet you've survived as a business in that competitive market. Well done to you. What was the key? What was the difference between Griffin tax professionals and Sakina compared to thousands and thousands of other accountants in Sydney?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question, and I'm glad that you brought that up because that's the good platform for me to actually say that why would you consider not any other accountant but any accountant from Griffin because I won't say that I'm the only one, but I'm only just saying that out of 10, maybe you will find only 5 accountants with multiple license under that one umbrella, whereby we can offer a holistic service. How many accountants you would know that they're ASIC agent as well as a tax agent, and they're also SMSF specialists, and they can also do a general advice? Very few. So if you are with some accountant who may not have access to asset portal, and if you have already established your company and you just go and transfer your books, they're just going to continue with your books for the rest of your life with that accountant. Without that accountant will ever have opportunity to review a structure. So someone having a tax agent license and also an ASIC agent license will always play with the numbers in parallel to keeping an eye on your structure of the business, because structure of the business is not only required to lift up, you may need to downgrade, you may need to consolidate, you may need to isolate. There could be so many situations, but you reckon that any agent would know that? Tax agent? Probably yes. But if they don't have access, they will never know how it was even structured to begin with. They may be very good to advise what the structure should be, but they may not be too quick to restructure and act promptly, because sometimes the decision may not have enough time to put that foot on and to quickly restructure it. But someone already have access. They can just quickly take action. They can quickly fix things.
So that leads to my other question now. Thank you, Shabahat, because then it gives me the option to ask you stuff as well. And what I wanted basically then ask was, so you actually define your USP that you have different licensing under the same banner and under the same panel. Now, obviously, this is not something which you can achieve very easy, because the one thing which is really hard in Australia is actually to get those accreditations. So
That's right. Yeah.
when did you actually got that? And then when you got that, you started your business. So what services are you basically covering under Griffin under those licensing?
When did I start keep on adding licenses? I didn't even start my business until I had all those licenses. The only license I added after I established my business was the ASIC one. But I had all other licenses well before I set up my business. So I'm well experienced in having these licenses for years. What services I offer? I offer obviously business advisory service, the entire taxation related services like lodgement, stationery lodgement, and preparation and all. I also offer payroll services. Payroll now, I was having a conversation with some of my clients, and they were managing their reconciliation themselves without them realizing that payroll is not like any other reconciliations, that they were actually very screwed with a lot of numbers, and their engagement or level of engagement with their previous accountant was only just pulling the data what's on the zero, and the whole payroll was messed up. So with us, you're going to be interacting with the tax agent where we specialize in the payroll as well. We also understand the employment law. So when we run the payroll, we also highlight the risk of not meeting the compliance level by having arm's length employees or subcontracting. And in addition to that, I also have a SMSF specialist license. So I'm authorized to provide a general advice. And having my deep understanding about SMSF, I'm able to help my corporate clients that how they can manage their numbers at a company level more tax effectively without needing to pay themselves a heavy salary, but still save something for a rainy day. Because one of the irony a lot of businessmen would run is if they're running a business, obviously they will be wealthy at the time, but as they come out of the business, or if the business, God forbid, collapse, then at that time they will never have a money for their rainy days. So I help my clients not just for the present, I prepare them for a rainy day. Having my SMSF knowledge, I save a lot of money in their super, help them to retire rich with the money they earn from business, as well as the money they part from the business to their SMSF.
That's good. I think Shabahat would be definitely looking forward for your services for himself. What do you say, Shabahat?
Yeah, I've got 10 or 20 million in SMSF that I need to manage more efficiently, I think, Sakina. So I'll be reaching out to you.
if you're talking that, I need an office in Bondi as well, so probably that would
Since
benefit
we
as
all
well.
are discussing about,
Yes,
Yes,
Aqsa,
Aksa.
please go ahead.
अक्सा की आवाज भी हमसे 6 घंटे पीछे चल रही होती है ना पाकिस्तान टाइम पे.
since we are talking about very informative, very informative stuff, I just want you to discuss about the precautions which a person should take while buying real estate or something like that.
Good
Yeah,
question.
no, that's a very good point. I mean, any of the statement I've made or responding to open question, I would like to be very clear that please do not take this as an advice. I'm only just generalizing the scenarios. I have not considered anyone's personal circumstances, so please do not contemplate your decision.
Just be careful as well, second we are online. So if you're gonna ask Shabahat to buy a property for 2 million, he might just go and buy it. So
um, Yeah, well, Shabbat, just be careful buying a property directly under your name for up to 2 million, depending on what category that property would be sitting. Don't end up taking a big injection of the capital gain when it comes to disposing it off. So sometimes people are very, excited about jumping into purchasing property, and as they jump in, they don't even go and bother consulting their agent because their friend have been building up their portfolio and the friend told them that negative gain gets them a big refund. They go and replicate exactly the same and they think that that's what rule of thumb is. And then when they sell the property and then they come and do their tax return, when it's too late for all the tax agent to even tell them how wrong the whole idea was to begin with and how better they could have done the whole structure to save themselves from all those now aspects that they have to share with the ATO. So yeah, getting into a property, even if it's a personal property, I always think if you have a investment property and you have a personal, or you have a personal and you're going to change that personal property as an investment property and moving to another personal property, you always consult accountant. You may pay 250 or 300 for an hour consultation. Trust me, it will save you a significant amount from CGT when it comes to disposing of your assets.
I think I actually remember Sakina, you shared actually something on the group as well. For the viewers who are just coming in, we're just letting you know that we actually have a business network group which is named as APBN, and obviously we all are members of APBN and we're part of the same group. So I think few time back you also mentioned that was very funny, and I was like, you know what, ADO, these are all funny stories because I think you remember we mentioned that if we are claiming our residential property as our secondary workplace, so we have to be careful because we might be acquiring the tax basically on it as well, and that it's going to be capital gain tax on that particular portion of what we are claiming to work from as a secondary work. So that's can you give us a bit more details on what that was?
Yep. So basically, when you have a small portion of your personal home dedicated for your office, and if you're running your business from there, and you go in and you say, okay, I've got 3 bedroom, out of which 1 bedroom is actually dedicated for my business. So that means up to 30 or 33%, I should be able to claim my rates, my electricity, my gas, my mortgage interest cost. And they go and they tell the agent, and a lot of agents learning from YouTube, and they go and claim that deduction as well, happily. So the consequences of doing that, you might be getting a small portion of refund. I mean, your interest, your rates, and all that, how much would that be if you only claim 30%? Maybe you can go and put 8,000 in total, or let's just say 10,000. I don't know how much your interest would be. Let's just say hypothetically standard. And based on a standard figure, I can only estimate that your total amount that you will put in your tax return by claiming 30% of your 3 bedroom house will no more than 10,000. On 10,000, if your marginal rate is somewhere between 24 to 32 or 34, you're only just going to get a refund of that percentage from 10,000. For a small gain, what happened is when you go and you move from that 3 bedroom to 5 bedroom, because now you may have 2 kids or you may have a parent joining you and you need a larger place. So as you move to another personal place, you think that this was your personal place and you can go and claim 100% CGT. That won't be the case because you have registered your personal home as your principal place of business. And when you were lodging your personal tax return, you were claiming all those deductions. As a result of all this, the ATO already have access to all your information. So when they connect the dot, and as you're done and lodge your tax return, at the time of lodgement, obviously the software is not going to understand that. So the software will accept your tax return, but as the ATO will dot your match the dots, so they will come back to you and they say, well, hang on a second, that address was used for a business purpose as well. And as per the state revenue record, you've already sold this asset. We need a 30% of the CGT.
Wow.
They were like, where did all that come from? It was my personal place. Yeah, it was, but you registered that place as your business address. Registering that address as a business address isn't the problem. The problem is that not only you registered your business on ASIC as your primary place of business, but you were actually claiming deductions. That was the problem, or this would be the problem.
That's pretty interesting to know, obviously, and definitely that's people can think, oh, I can claim all this money, and then suddenly they get a huge bill. I can remember one of my friends coming from overseas, and they ended up a 2 lakh tax bill because he
I
was earning overseas.
I have another question related to this.
Yeah, go ahead, Aqsa.
Can you please tell us about the Division 7A? We will be very thankful about that.
Sorry, Aqsa, you dropped. I
Aqsa,
really
your
didn't
voice
hear your
dropped off.
question.
अक्सर आप सवाल लिख के भेज दो पीछे व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में.
Before I forget to mention one of a very common scenario where a
Really
lot of
sorry for my internet. I'm saying, can you please tell us about the Division 7A? Can you hear me now?
Oh, for that, I need almost 3 days to tell you what that is. This is a monster. Okay, I will just put in a very simple and vanilla scenario. So when any individual go out and set up their own business, they think that because I'm the only one running this business and I'm the only one doing everything for the business money is my money. So they go and earn money and go and spend on their mortgage. They go and spend on their groceries, on shopping for their wife and kids' school fee, without them realizing that, yes, indeed, I mean, it's your business, but business money is not your business money. Sorry, your business money is not your personal money unless you declare that as your personal income. So the moment you go out and pull the money from the business on your personal use, on your interest and school fee and wife shopping and groceries and all that amount and the sum of that amount, if you don't declare that as your income, it falls into Division 7A. Now, how many category of the Division 7A? We need to have 3 sessions.
So, but how does Division 7A get created? What's different between a PSI or a Division 7A?
Oh no, they're 2 different worlds. So we're talking about North and like North and.
If it's not your income, it's not your personal income. It's Division 7A. You just mentioned that, right?
No. PSI and PSB is entirely different story. PSI and PSB is if you are engineer or you're a doctor or lawyer or say for I'm an accountant and I don't have employees or I don't use any software and I go and set up a company and whatever I earn through the company and then I just pay myself a small salary and I use all the other money as well. The ATO will like, no, look, you're actually PSI, you're a personal service income business. So they will refuse your company tax rate. They will not let you earn your business money at a corporate rate only because you've set up a company. So your company, your trust, your partnership, everything can be refused all those concessional rates can be refused if you don't pass the PSB test. So there are tests between PSI and PSB, and you need to satisfy that your business income is not coming from your personal exertion. Your business income is coming from your personal exertion, plus some tools, plus all other sources as well. So there are 4 different tests, and you need to pass, or any entity need to pass 1 out of 4 tests to qualify that you're PSB, to be able to lodge your company income tax and only pay taxes on your company income at a company rate.
So I
Otherwise,
think
yeah.
I think Shabat's question would be more of like, so then what is that what you're discussing is as that a type of business which is like either is that applicable to PDY Limited or it's not?
Any type of entity. You can be just individual and running a business under your personal ABN, but if you pass the PSB test, your individual ABN can be considered as an entity. And if you pass one of those 4 tests, even under your personal ABN, you can still claim all those deductions that you could claim under PSB. You probably can't get that concessional rate. But other than individual entity, if you're a company or trust or partnership, obviously it's got different rates. Trust is tax-free anyway. But if you set up all other entities, but you don't pass the PSB test, your company rate will be refused. You cannot say my net profit is $10 and I'm going to pay only just a company rate 25% for FY22 because you set up a company and the earning was under the company. A lot of engineers, when they go on their ABM rather than their TFN income, they go and set up their company and they invoice from a company to their companies where they're employee. The ATO refused that. The ATO is like, no, even if you've set up a company, it's you who is using purely your personal exertion, and therefore that company will not be granted a 25% of that concessional tax rate.
So basically,
So so the company have to pay the entire money to him as a shareholder, and then he has to declare the entire money in his personal tax return and pay a personal marginal rate. But obviously, he can claim deductions and all this under the company.
Okay. So what do you think when a small business actually starts, and if a person is starting a new business, then what's your recommendation? What kind of entity they should be doing, or what sort of actions they should be doing in their business?
Yeah, look, I mean, I heard a lot of people, suggesting their own way of assessing client scenarios. My way is no different to what other ex-agents have mentioned. It's all about what level of the business that you're going to start, and what are your obstacles to be engaged with the clients, your risk level, and so is it your side gig? Is it your full-time business? So there are a lot of things that you need to take into consideration to come up with that one answer, that what entity is the right entity for you. But as a rule of thumb, if there's any small business that have no risk, it doesn't have to go and employ anyone, or may employ, but maybe just part-time, and there's uncertainty about even the level of income that they may get, and to engage that business with any of the client that's appropriate for the business. The business doesn't have to provide the PDY Limited label on it. If you don't have all that restriction, as a rule of thumb, if your income is going to be below 75, or even I would say even up to 90,000, you're better running that business under your ABN. But again, that back to another factor, that is that your side gig, or is that your primary source of income? If this is only your primary source of income and it's not your side gig, and you know that your first year will suffer and it will only be just less than 90,000, you better just stay under ABN because it's tax effective and it's cost effective, and they're less compliant. So you can just focus growing your business till your business reaches at a certain level, and then you can always restructure it. But again, this may not necessarily be the right answer if the business have to engage with some clients where he will only get the contract unless he can provide that PDY Limited label. So if this is the only way he's going to get the contract, then he shouldn't worry about that $512 for asset fee. He would rather better just go and set up the company because this is the only one way he's going to get the income.
That sounds good.
Well, let's say that they're the kind of business that we're running. You're not really required. You're not doing any government contracting. You're not required to have a PTY limited. Let's talk purely in reference to number of employees in the business and the revenue. What would be an accountant's suggestion? What numbers do you need to hit in revenue and employees to transition from ABN to ACN?
Well, look, first of all, the ATO will not stop you to employ anyone, even if you're running your business under your ABN. You can still go and register your personal TFN with the expended with the ABN, and you can even register yourself as an individual. If you are running your business under your personal ABN, you can go and register yourself for PAYG withholding tax. So once you register yourself for PAYG withholding tax, that means even if you're running a business under your personal ABN, you can still employ even up to 10 employees. But is that really practical? That's where my suggestion will be a little bit different. That just because the ATO doesn't stop you from doing that, I suggest you shouldn't be doing that, because really, if you're going to go and hire 10 people, then your business is definitely more than 90,000. I mean, it's kind of implied, right? If someone come to me and say, I'm going to employ 5 people or 10 people, I'm definitely going to not wasting my client asking what your turnover will be, because it's sort of obvious. But if the business is purely going to be like a security business, or I don't know, some sort of business that purely based on hiring people on TFN, and maybe the net income is too little, and even if that's the case, and your net income is going to be far lower than 9,000, I would say that because you're going to engage yourself with the arm's length employee, you're best to say.
Is Sakina frozen?
Yeah.
She needs a good internet.
Yeah, she was complaining about TPG last time we had a chat.
Yeah?
But I'm on TPG. Oh, yeah, I got TPG too.
You are just a trader, isn't it? Your friend owns a telco company and you're buying from TPG. How sad is that?
Yeah, that's something we need to have a chat about.
Yeah, no, that's being sad.
Remember, you're live, okay?
I just said that's sad. Your old friend has a company, a telco company, and you're just buying it from someone else, and especially
Well,
TPG.
Sorry, I think my internet got disconnected. We're not having a good day, are we?
Yeah, that's what I
yeah,
was
no,
telling to
that's good.
Shabahat. I was just telling him that, there's a guy in this room who owns a telco company, and yet you guys' internet is not working. So that's sad.
I'm so sorry. My sincere apology. So I was getting taxation is a very complex word, and my answer to two different clients with the same number may vary because of their personal circumstances. So it's really hard to give that one line answer. That's what you should do. That's what you should do in that scenario.
No, that's pretty much, I think that's pretty good. And obviously, I think one of the most important thing is I actually had a short video on that as well, that once you start to understand that you're starting up a business and you're setting up a business, I think it's always a good option to go and get a consulting done from an accountant, because they would just set you on the right path. Like, I've had experiences with few accountants and my experience was not really good. But obviously you learn by the time, and then once you learn, you start to do things, and then get to know more about it. And even now, I don't think a lot of businesses would be pretty much aware of what you can do or you can't, and when it comes to the accounting part of it. So that's one of the reasons why it's always a recommendation. And not, I think SMBs, it's, if in an SMB space, if you just file it at the end of the year, that's fine. But especially when you're going to pass the SMB space, or as soon as you have more than 500,000 turnover, I think the best recommendation would always be to have a have the advisory service from the accountant, because they can now help you save tax, probably, I would say. So saving tax and not playing around, but saving tax would be the right word, isn't it, Sakina?
Minimizing tax. We all have to pay our portion to the NGO, a little bit.
No, it's in our community is very common. Oh, सारा tax चोरी करता है. हम कहते हैं भाई, it's not tax चोरी करता. It's like, you're utilizing the system to its full potential.
I actually like to add one line to this. Look, there are different ways to manage your tax. One way is you go under the dark and you try to hide things and try to minimize the tax. Or the other way is you go right under the nose of APO, but only you should get your paperwork ready. You should understand how the system works, and when you know how the system works and what papers are required, and when you're done with your homework, you don't need to turn off the light and walk into the shed. You can go right under the APBN and you lodge your tax return with a peace of mind and sleep well, because you know that APBN will come and knock on your door. You're done with your homework. You don't need to worry about it.
That's pretty
And
cool.
always make sure you draw a line. You always need to draw a line. Whenever you go across the border, you're actually raising APO's eyebrows on that. So there's always a fine line. So try to understand that if your agent is telling you we can that far, maybe because they've got access to the APO collective data, where how the industry why this sort of deduction works, and then if you go over the industry trend, obviously that trend will be picked up by the system, because at the APO, no one can sit down and look through every single page of your tax return. In today's era, everything is gone through the APO, and the APO system is so efficient that anything that does not match with their trend, it raises a flag automatically. It sends a notification, and that's where you get a letter for a nice conversation with them. So you just need to understand where to draw the line.
और ये शबाहत की ना शरारती वाली स्माइल बाहर आ रही है, तो I understand that it's not a good plan. But
Shabahat, you have a profession if you've crossed the lines sometime recently.
That's good. So I think we have a question for you in the chat. Let me just bring the chat up. All right, so the question for you, Sakina, is Kamran Wahid, जो stuntman at auto rickshaw, ये हमारा वाला कामरान है, दूसरा वाला कामरान नहीं है. इनका question है, he's saying that can we invest SMSF overseas? I think that's an interesting question.
You can absolutely do that. But one thing to remember, that the compliance a little bit more tighter when it comes to navigating your money from one jurisdiction to another. The audit will be a little bit more rigid versus if you have any investment in Australia. For two main reasons. Obviously, if any auditor is going to assess the value of your fund, depending on what the investments are, and if this auditor is some Gora, or even if it's some Pakistani and have no clue about the current market of Pakistan, the auditor will not be comfortable to sign off as what the current value of the fund should be. And therefore, he's going to send you a long list of every single document to cover his hours. So he's going to ask you for the valuation document. He's going to ask you for so many documents that will come with the cost. So remember two things. Having an investment in a foreign jurisdiction, whether Australia, whether Pakistan, or US, because I know that the US rate is really good, the interest rate is really good. So sometimes people never get the money there too. So having all that done through the SMSF, be ready for double of the cost to bring all the required documents to enable the auditor to assist your fund investment. Sign off on your audit. And this will happen every day. So you need to weigh your option. Okay, I understand that my return from Australia is only 10%, but my return from Pakistan is 15%. But is that 5% going to be wasted collecting all the documents that you could possibly avoid if you were in Australia? That's it. I'm not suggesting. If you have investment in Australia, the auditor is not going to ask for all the valuation documentation. But having any investment in Australia, you can go and get the valuation $25 from CoreLogic.
True.
Or even if it's managed by any rental managers, they can even go and write down rental appraisal and valuation appraisal. So this will still be valid for 2 years, but for foreign investment, it's going to be every year story. And apart from that, you must also remember, which I have found a lot of deficiency when I recently have done some tax returns, and I noticed that those had investment in Pakistan. So they transfer the money through Ondi or Western Union, or I'm not going to mention other very well known money traders. So they transfer the money. And so it wasn't the ADI. ADI is like a list of banks that the ATF suggested that if you are investing in a foreign country, your money from fund should go through any of the financial institutions that's listed in the ADI list. And there are so many foreign banks and even some financial institutions, and they may not necessarily be banking. They may not necessarily be banking. They are listed in countries. They are listed in. So you must transfer the money. So you must transfer the money with the correct media. It is going to end up with a massive big compliance issue.
सुन लिया कामरान, तो अब जो तुम्हारे बंगले हैं ना डिफेंस वगैरह के अंदर, सब बेचो और वापस ऑस्ट्रेलिया में पैसे लेकर आओ। ये कामरान जैसे लोग होते हैं जो ऑस्ट्रेलिया का पैसा बाहर ले जाते हैं। राइट मतलब आप करें बिल्कुल पेपर वर्क से रखें। आप बस इस बात को याद रखें कि आप पैसे जो है वो सही तरीके से भिजवाने हैं। अपनी फाइल रेडी रखनी है। अनलेस आप कोई ऑडिटर करते हैं, वो आपका फ्रेंड भी है अंडर द टेबल और वो नहीं मांग रहा आपसे पेपर वर्क, तो सही है। तो आपकी भी मर्जी उनकी भी मर्जी। बस ऑडिटर का होना चाहिए टैक्स रिटर्न या फाइनेंशियल या आप लॉन्च उसको साइन ऑफ ऑडिटर का मानना बहुत जरूरी है। जहां ऑडिटर ने मना कर दिया या जहां ऑडिटर को लगा कि इन्वेस्टमेंट सही नहीं है ऑडिटर ने उस सारी कहानी आईटीओ को आगे रख दी, बिकॉज़ कोई आपके लिए होएगा ना। नहीं, सही बात है। एंड आई थिंक बीइंग अ पाकिस्तानी हम जुगाड़ तो हर जगह निकाल ही लेते हैं ना, तो हम तो एटीओ में तक थोड़ा लेकिन दो ये भी देखा है ड्यू रिस्पेक्ट मैंने ये भी देखा है कि $2 अगर एक्सचेंज रेट आ रहा है और आपने एडीआई के इंस्टीट्यूट से इग्नोर किया है क्योंकि वो हुंडी के थ्रू आप $2 का रेट अच्छा मिला, तो आई थिंक यू टेकिंग अ लॉट ऑफ रिस्क फॉर नो गुड। True. No, definitely. And obviously it's not even worth doing something, if you would become a millionaire by just doing a fraud, then probably you might just give it a shot, but you might end up paying more than that. If you commit. So yeah, I can imagine जो अभी शबात की थोड़ी देर बाद वो शरारती वाली स्माइल थी ना, वो when you were saying about okay how can you do this and that, and शबात की एक शरारती वाली स्माइल बाहर आ गई, तो I just knew what was actually going into his head and what he was planning. So Shabahat, what was that smile about?
I was just really interested कि मैं वो auditor वाला part सुन के ना, actually to be very honest, Sakina, you're the only accountant that I enjoy listening to. Normally, you guys bore the hell out of everyone, but you are someone that explains the logic and the functionalities in a way that कि वो समझ भी आती हैं, and it's not just very boring. So kudos for that.
Appreciate no, definitely. I think I can watch for that as well. That एक तो सबसे पहली चीज ना सकीना के साथ ये होता है, वो इतना बड़ा बम फाड़ती है इन्फॉर्मेशन का कि हमें 4 दफा मैसेज पढ़ना पड़ता है ग्रुप में भी, यार इसने लिखा क्या है, पहले तो पढ़ो, फिर नहीं यार दोबारा, अब दोबारा पढ़ो उसको। 4 दफा पढ़ने के बाद हमें समझ आता है कि अच्छा दिस इज व्हाट शी मीन्स।
Would you believe me that for me to even come up with those bullet points, I actually go through 30 and 35 pages to prepare three bullet points. So you can only hear what is for you. In my recent post, you may notice I actually put six points, and I then consolidated. Point number 4 is for individual. Point number 5 to 7 is for company. Point number 3, and I actually mentioned, like, if you're not interested, don't waste your time. But if you fall in that category, go back and read that. How you can connect yourself with that.
Definitely.
So,
She puts in a lot of effort as well, and I'm pretty sure that she's a very confident accountant, and one of the reasons because she does her research for sure, and there are very few people who would actually be providing you those data. वरना हमने भी देखे हैं जो पीआर के लिए अकाउंटिंग करते हैं और फिर बाद में साइड कंसल्टिंग खोलती, टैक्स रिटर्न के बूथ खोल के बैठ जाते हैं, टैक्स रिटर्न करवा लो, टैक्स रिटर्न करवा लो, ओपन के रोड पे खड़े होते हैं, भाई टैक्स रिटर्न करवा लो, बस उनका बस नहीं चलता, वो आके नारे लगाना शुरू होते हैं, टैक्स रिटर्न वाले। So I'm pretty sure that she's not one of those accountants who just go do a diploma just for the sake of having PR and then just go and start giving out services. So for sure,
No, definitely not. As I mentioned, I actually came to Australia. I came to Australia because I had a scholarship. I was already working for one of the best companies. We all know everyone's from Karachi. I don't need to explain how large is Anglo Corporation. I had a car. I had a driver in uniform. I had childcare within the building. You name it, I had it. And what else I can be more proud on is that even working for that company only for 1 year, I was sponsored. I definitely had a massive future in Pakistan. So I
there you had a car. Now you're on your way to buy a private jet. So okay.
private jet with the tax return claimed by Griffin Tax.
Yeah, now the taillight is going to have the logo of Griffin Tax Professionals, right? And the bottom is going to be www. Griffin Tax Professionals. I think this has been
just want to mention one thing is we were talking about that property thing. So recently I come across one case, and I'm sorry for that. So I'm not going to mention obviously, but I'll just give you a little bit of story that in your view have that circumstance, we need to look back. It's worth continue doing. Someone did and wasn't worth it. So if you have your old parents who are on pension from Centrelink, and based on their pension, if you add the owner of your house, and if that house is your place of residence, when you sell that house, then that house will be caught in CGT as well.
Okay.
Just be careful, particularly if anyone have that.
I have actually a solution for that. I said, you know what? Just don't really buy a property. Just keep renting.
Or just don't try to save. Like how much would be the rate? Like the rate might be, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000. Let's just say, depending on how large is your property. So you're trying to just add your parent as the house because you get a small discount on rates because inflation is on pension. And based on that, you get a small. So the point I'm making is not don't make your parents as a owner. Obviously, your parents, you are who you are only because your parents made you to where you are today. So I mean, there are the owner of your house. But for sake of little money, try not to play small games because playing that small game will leave you in a very adverse position. Try to understand the consequences in the long run.
No, that's pretty good. Thanks so much, Sakina. I think we just noticed that we have already spent our time because it was so fun talking to you, and we actually have gone above our time limit, but it was really nice talking to you. Before we leave, I think I would open up to other people as well if they have any final questions before we shut down.
Yes, Sakina, again, yes, as we reach the end of the session, thank you for joining us. It's been really insightful and enlightening. But before we go, I want you to share quickly, for those who are listening, um, is there an offer in your business right now? Is there some benefit if people join in currently or come to you for their taxes? Who should come to you for their taxes right now? And yeah, any who are the people you're looking for in your business as clients right now?
Okay, well, for but in terms of a discount, obviously, we do offer referral discount for APBN members. We can offer you a discount range between even up to 25 to 30%, depending on where and at what level we're offering services. So we've got three different tiers of services. So depending on what tiers you go, the higher the tier, the lower the discount. Then your dollar amount in your pocket will be good as well. So don't worry about that part. Now who should come and see me? Only if you think that is worth learning what you don't know. What I'm trying to say that you might have a very good accountant, and no doubt all the accountants out there are amazing. I would not say anyone is lacking. Obviously, if they've got license, they have already proven themselves. They all are coming with a significant amount of experience, but they all have a great expertise to manage your number. But it's always good to consult another accountant as well, just to see that what difference and how that account can possibly make. Unless you don't do that, you will never know what you're missing on. So I'm not going to suggest that you should, but I'm just going to suggest that if you are at the stage whereby you think that okay, I've been going on the same path for 4 years or 5 years, how come nothing have never changed? Even my numbers are now what I had to begin with my journey. Maybe there's something I'm missing. How come I'm still on the same company structure? How come I'm still buying my Ford property under my personal name? There has to be something I should consider.
Absolutely. So for those who are listening, even if you have an accountant, even if you've been doing everything fine, it's always good to have a second opinion. And right now, I don't believe there's anyone better in the community for a second opinion, or even the first one in that case, than Sakina. Thank you, Sakina.
I actually had a call from the government, from APBN, or his auntie not having it. This is what happened with the investment. And I'm like, okay, so what did the accountant say? And I'm like, well, they can't give you the right information. So trust me, if you come to me for your opinion, if the accountant's right, I will reiterate that. Because if that is the right thing, that's exactly what you're going to hear from me. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. However, if the accountant have told you something and not told you the other side of the point, you will hear that from me. Because with me, when I do consultation, I was like, okay, option one, option three. Each option I will put on a plus and minus category, and I will tell you weigh each option and you tell me which one you think is more appropriate in terms of return.
I think in short that means is भाई अगर आपने 2 नंबर पैसे बनाने हैं तो then don't come to Sakina for sure.
हमने पॉइंट कवर नहीं किया, व्यूअर्स को ये बताते चले कि सकीना पठान है बैकग्राउंड में,
तो 2 नंबर काम कर सकती है, ऐसा मतलब
है अच्छी है बुरी है।
नहीं तो उसके लिए ऑफलाइन बात करेंगे हम, डिपेंडिंग के कितना 2 नंबर पैसा है।
आपने जो बात करने थे आपको ये कहने की जरूरत ही ना पड़ती, आप मुझे बात करने देते। I would have been ready.
I think it was really fun. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you all, everyone, for coming. And please stay tuned.
Opportunity.
No, definitely. And I hope that a lot of people contact you, especially APBN members. Do talk to Sakina, and she's actually offering you a pretty great offer, and that's actually a pretty good offer. Because I'm telling you, if you're gonna earn more than $5 million, a 30% discount is pretty good. So
and one thing not to forget is my initial consultation for the first 90 minutes is
oh,
free.
that's pretty good.
But that consultation, if it turn out to be you to have it in writing, that's where to give you that advice in writing, we charge for the drafts and the advice in writing. But 30 minutes consultation is free. You come and have your comparative analysis with us. You can absolutely walk away, no question asked.
No, that's pretty good. I think that's a pretty good offer, and I'm sure you will attract more customers as well in reference to that. But everyone, please do support Sakina as well for her business, and I'm pretty sure today's session was really fruitful for all of you, and you all have learned a lot of quite new things, especially a business like myself also who's been operating for like 15 years, but even I've learned something new this today. So that's pretty good. I'm sure everyone, you will be getting a very fruitful information when you're gonna go and see Sakina. So thank you everyone. Thank you all for joining. Inshallah, we will meet soon again. Khuda Hafiz.
Right. That was good, my love. Thank you. Bye bye.